Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday morning. Thank you so much, Jack Apollyon, for the tier 1 sub. 3 months, thank you. I appreciate that. Morning. I figured I'd share the anniversary before stream as to not interrupt anything. No, that's perfectly fine, no problem. Also, at some point I should receive my channel points for a couple of cute animal videos. True. Hey Heat, how's it going? Morning. Astro London, morning. Danarchist. Howdy. It is indeed Friday Eve. Tomorrow's the weekend. Hey Thundera, how's it going? How you doing, ADT? I'm hanging in there. London is great today. Well, I'm sure that's kind of a common theme, isn't it? Braided Dragon, how's it going? So we've got a little bit of an announcement. I'm awake, I might even say, quote, woke. Oh boy. I've got good internet, so I might try a real stream soon. Well, that's about time. We are in the northern hemisphere autumn, not like poor Canada. Yeah, but I feel like gray is kind of, gray skies is kind of a normal thing there, right? Is that not correct? I only have Hassan emotes. Well, if you are, you should have also our emotes, right? If you're followed. If you follow, you should have some emotes too. Some pretty nice ones. You're the best. I appreciate that. Folks, we got a couple of things, to run through, and we still have to finish the New York Times report that we've been going through. We get our fair share of sunshine in the summer, but fortunately, not desperately hot. Oh no, there's no such thing here. It is only desperately hot. The only thing here is hot. The only, I guess, consistent characteristic is hot. The only characteristic consistent here is hot. It's freezing where I am? Oof, yikes. That's right. From my understanding, there's always muggy weather in London. I'm never going to stay in a place that's hotter than 75. Yeah, that's a good, that is a good how should I say, metric. That is usually that's a pretty decent metric, I should say. I've never been to Florida, but it has to be better than 36 degrees. Like 36 degrees freezing or 36 degrees Celsius. Because Celsius, depending on the time of day, it could get pretty close. It could approach those levels. I only speak Fahrenheit. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, 36 is cold. Oof. 36 degrees is cold. Winter is the time to visit, but it's Florida, so no time is good time for visiting. Yeah, it's something like that. It's 38 degrees Fahrenheit for me. Oof. That is, that's pretty cold. I think the perfect temperature is about 70 something. Yeah, you look great in dark colors. I appreciate that. Thank you. A quick conversion of temperature is double Celsius and add 39 degrees equals Fahrenheit. Oh no, I'm not doing that kind of math. Add 30. Crypto.com bought our stadium where Pistons play, and now it's called Crypto.com. Oof. Here you go, Tendera. Now you get 2 channel emotes. For me, perfect would be between 65 to 75. Yeah, that's fine for me. I understand ADT mathematics is hard for some. True. Listen, that's why I, generally speaking, do not get myself too involved with the maths. Okay? Hey, Coctor, how's it going? Thank you, of course. Now you get those cool emotes, and you get the follower emote. That's why, generally speaking, I don't convert to Celsius. Yeah, no. I'm not about to start solving equations live. I'm at 12 degrees Celsius, so 24 plus 30 equals 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that's not actually too bad. Maybe 54 is not too bad, right? Like, I always prefer to be colder than hot, right? Because you can just wear a sweater or something, right? You can just layer up. But I don't know, there's not much solution to the heat except go, into AC, right? Or like Celsius is like Celsius is based on a metric of 10. Yeah, that seems about it. Oh, the literal equation. Oh no no no. Oh no. Oh no no no. Not about to start like doing algebra in the middle of this stream. You're not gonna get me to do that. My brain doesn't do that. Same. If I sit here and I start putting my efforts towards it, maybe. But for me, the problem I have a lot of times with math is it's just not interesting to me. Like it unironically just does not it just does not interest me, and when things don't interest me, you can kiss those goodbye, cuz I just tune out. Right, that is correct. I believe that is correct. Or at least the equation. Cocter. I have failed my math test. I'm more of a language person myself. Yeah, like I'm a... How do I say this? I do a lot of... where I'm very good at, for example, things like biology. I'm very good at, I guess, soft science, like people. Social studies. Psychology. Things like that. Soft sciences. But the moment you start introducing things like algebra and letters into equations, I just get bored. I just get turned off. I passed everything else but math. I failed my math test last week and I have to pay to retake it. Oof. I'm more of a language person myself. Yeah. Language is interesting. My girlfriend is very, very, very into language. She loves going into the history, meaning, and connotations behind different words, and she'll just... and in different languages, how those are connected, so on and so forth. Teddy bear scientist, exactly. How's it going, Kalo? Good to know your strengths. Yeah, true. Writing could be boring too. I took a technical writing class in college. Oof. I mean, I can write. And by writing, I mean like I can write in proper English when I want to. Like, grammar and all. Good morning, morning. Howdy. I'd rather write about a book I just finished. Top of the morning to you. But how about cursive? What? What? Cursive? What is that? Is that still a thing? Essay typewriting bores the shit out of me. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I like creative writing. I've had to cope with decimalization and change to the SI system. Oh, There it goes. Oh, to the SI system of units. Gotcha. It's something these boomers are upset about. Cursive is useless typing, however. Oh yeah, like, if you were to choose between learning cursive and learning how to type, or take a typing class, or, like, I don't know, a Microsoft Office class, obviously you would take the Microsoft Office or typing class over that, because, like, unironically, cursive is like, is done, is just useless. I don't want to say useless, but useless. Can I permit? I forgot how I do this. Okay, but that's not the command I want. Okay. Just send it to me via whispers then, Danarchist. Yeah, cursive is very much dead. I don't... I learned cursive, but I forgot it. Yeah, I can still... kind of... I can still kind of write cursive. I was taught cursive copperplate writing as a kid. I mean, like, if you want to do, what is that, it's like writing style? Oh god, it has a name. It has a name when you practice handwriting and you practice different fonts. It has a name. Calligraphy, thank you. Calligraphy. Yeah, like if you want to do like calligraphy and stuff like that, that's cool. That's pretty awesome. Yes, calligraphy. Don't forget to dot your I's and cross your T's. True. True. How's it going, Dark Knight? Or writing a boy's last name as your own? I no equals I do joined up adult writing. I used to write my entire name as my signature, now I don't. Lettering is a different thing, but can use calligraphic text as well within it. Surfer McGritty, rating with a party of 11. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You guys have basically come in at the start. We're about to kick things off. Appreciate that. Adric 1312, thank you for the follow. Welcome, welcome everybody. How's it going? For those of you that don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. We do news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 AM. Join us for Saturday Catterdays at about noon Eastern time. Don't forget to click the follow button. I'm named after one of the princesses of Monaco, and I want to use her signature. Yo, yo, yo. How's it going? I put some instant coffee and brown sugar in my oatmeal. What? Wait. I put some instant coffee and brown sugar in my oatmeal. Chat, can somebody confirm if this is okay? Can somebody confirm if this is okay? Hey Alio, how's it going? Some dumb howdy howdy. Gotta get ready for work now. Deuces, hey! Take care, Surfer McGritty. Appreciate that. Have a good day, Surfer McGritty. Appreciate the raid. Sounds okay if you like mocha. It's coffee and chocolate. But oatmeal? My alarm just went, means it's time to get ready for beat a cog in the capitalist machine. Yeah, that's, we all gotta prepare for that one, right? Mine is in 2 hours? No, about less than 2 hours. Hey, Alio. It's definitely a weird food take, but I think it's okay. Define okay. Yeah, I don't know. Stop trying to fake me out and think it's Friday. It's not. It's very specific, okay? It is very clear, Eric. Okay? Friday Eve. Okay? It's not a debate. It's not a clickbait. It's Friday Eve. Okay? Not Friday. Not Friday Junior. Friday Eve. No, I'm just messing. I also have a cup of liquid coffee. Oh, man. Both of these things are correct. It is indeed Thursday, but you can also say it is indeed Friday evening or Friday Eve, right? You know, like the day before. Kind of like how Christmas Eve is the day before Christmas, right? Right? But Friday, though, I am drinking a kind of strong tea from South America. Chimarrao. Yeah, but drinking tea is 100% fine. Drinking tea is okay. But drinking tea is fine, but like putting coffee in oatmeal is where I start having the problems, right? How could you put coffee in oatmeal? Mountain Dew Code Red. Coffee with 5 kinds, Folgers, decaf, Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, like, coffee isn't the problem. Coffee isn't the problem. The problem is putting it in oatmeal. ADT for Senate. I'm up for that. I had a bowl of soup for breakfast, very boring. That's fine. That's even more fair than the decision to make coffee with oatmeal. The only wrong was in the ow, but that's because English does not have this sound. Make coffee with oatmeal, then make coffee with oat milk and then make oatmeal with that. Ah. Aha. The tea contains aluminum and Alzheimer's. People have excess. I'm not sure. I suspect that I guess it's possible. I'm just not sure. I think this guy's just hating oats now. No. I am not against oatmeal. If you want to have oatmeal for breakfast, fine. Is that a workaround to make it... Is that the workaround to make it not weird? I just skipped the making coffee step. Yeah, I guess. I guess. I'm having instant ramen for breakfast. Still more acceptable than putting coffee in oatmeal. Instead of owl, try to say making the A a little nasally sound. So, hold on. Let me go back to that. No. Chimarrão? Thank you for the follow-up, by the way, appreciate it. There is indeed an oatmeal police. I have deputized myself as the oatmeal police, even though I have never even though I don't eat oatmeal. I have deputized myself as the oatmeal police, even though I do not eat oatmeal. I never tried it, so it's good, and I'll accept many possibilities. Good enough. Appreciate that. A follow for the good pronunciation. Thank you. Oatmeal porridge, yeah. My dad loves oatmeal. I, however, do not. Anyways, I have personally decreed that it is a strange it is a strange choice, but hey, I usually use this oatmeal to make milk, but I haven't had it to eat in a long time. Serves me right. What accent do you have? I have a what you could consider a I have I know oatmeal scold when you don't even oatmeal. That's right. True. I have a South Florida accent. Oh man, is chat gonna rebel against me? Oh no. I have a South Florida accent. However, my my first language is Spanish, so my first language is Spanish, so it may be like a a little bit of a Hispanic accent mixed in there. I heard you like to oatmeal, so I put oatmeal in your oatmeal so you could oatmeal while you oatmeal. Nice. The sanest Florida man. True. Florida man is what I'd say the accent is. I had to mention cream of wheat with brown sugar, butter, and milk. Cream of wheat, is that just another way of like making different oatmeal? Is that just another way of making different oatmeal? Hey, memo for the record. No, that's different. Is it like grits? Ah, it's just another product. Gotcha. I think we have like the same accent here in Michigan. Huh, that's interesting. I mean, then again, like part of my job, what I do is speak to a lot of different people from a lot of different parts of the country. And I've been doing this for a very long time, years, I should say. Not just at this job, but at previous jobs. It has, it's been like a constant thing for me when it comes to, what I do, has been customer service, to say, the TLDR, right? And that involves talking to a lot of people with a lot of different accents, names, and all that, so kind of just sticks, right? Chai Bureaucrat resubscribing for 15 months. Long-term poggers. Undeniably poggers. I like grits. I never had though. Never sweet though. Butter, cheese, and hot sauce. I don't know. Listen, I'm already starting to press X to doubt on your food takes, Kal-El. Florida. It's Florida. Florida's an interesting place, raising minimum wages, won in that state the same year Trump won over that state of Biden. Yeah, it turns out progressive, at least progressive-leaning legislation that has no type of like political party next to it, no way to taint, like not necessarily no way to taint it, usually wins. It's very popular. It's very popular. It's very popular. Things like raising the minimum wage, things like giving felons the right to vote again after they did their time. I mean, like, these are more or less progressive leaning ideas. And without a D or R next to it, then people are completely okay with it. Like, that's the most bizarre thing about it, right? Like, it has been so, like, I want to say polarized, but that's the best word that I can think of, that if the minimum wage ballot initiative or referendum, or I think it was ballot initiative, I think is the correct word for it. If the minimum wage had like a D next to it from the Democratic Party, $10 says it would not have passed. $10 says it would not have passed if it had a D next to it. Leave Kal-El alone. I know, I'm just messing. The only different accent we have in Michigan is a Detroit accent with harsh R sounds. My tummy knows what's best for me. True. The Vanguard has decided that the grits are good. Alright. The problem is, how do you get people to actually prioritize that over their partisan alignment? By doing things like that, James Napper, by doing things like that, usually putting forth ballot initiatives that have no party attached to it, things like that. You put forth, or you stress the importance of voting for or putting on the table ballot initiatives. That's how you get things done, generally speaking. At least in the areas that is, at least in areas like here, right? Scam likely. Cartier glasses? I have no idea. Pacman and Sparks played Trump's interview with Pillow Guy. Trump admitted no next time, but Trump loves his worship. Oh, are you talking about Trump going to run again? I think he is. I think at least he's going to... I think he's at least going to wait till the midterms and say... and if the midterms go well for the GOP, he's going to throw his hat in the ring. But what incentive does, say, a progressive party or candidate have actually to achieve that? Only because their perspective, they would see it as, well, if I'm going to do a good thing, I want the credit. But they also know, or should know, that if no specific person is credited for the policy, voters will just say it was their guy who did it or whatever. Yeah, nah, I think it's simpler to just say that, listen, if you are in an area where you are allowed to do these ballot initiatives or referendums, then or amendments, then I'd say that you can get a on-the-ground coalition working to draft ballots with progressive legislation that is popular, and make sure that it's voted on. More likely than not, people will vote for it. Yeah, I guess you're right, Memo, but mainly he will get talked about, and if he does, that is the true goal. Why would you hang up? We just wanted to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. I mean, on a national level, there does appear to say be support for the minimum wage increase of 15, but despite that, it doesn't translate into actual voter behavior. Yeah, because, well, there is no, like, national way, to put forth, like, ballot initiatives, right? Like, a national program. you kind of have to do it on the local level, right? Because I mean, you try to get, and this is only on the electoral side of strategy, because like again, it's only one piece of the puzzle. But for more national and federal positions, you should probably try to look at primaries that are going on and see if we can get a more progressive candidate as the winner of primaries when you can. But on the state and local level, I think that there's more viable options. I think people should be pushing ranked choice voting. Yeah, I think so too, and that could be done through state ballot initiatives or amendments. And they've made referendums confusing too. Looks at Prop 2. Yeah, that's true. But you gotta. That's the whole point of being like wary and on the ground to be aware of these things. Again, this is just speaking from the electoral strategic side. Alright folks, we got the gauntlet to run through, and finish this NYT article. I just want to move to Canada. Yeah. State variations in minimum wage. Well, they've got universal health care, and they certainly have better social safety nets, and somewhat of a more democratic framework. Although I've never looked at it in a little while, so it may have changed. State variations in minimum wage could be linked to what the citizens do for sure, but then I would say in those instances more closely aligned with unionization rather than those who vote for who. Well, yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not about the parties or the politicians. It's about putting it forth through ballot initiatives, which is just solely voted on by the voters, right? Because, like, again, the case study would be Florida. Florida is, like, super abysmal when it comes to unionization, right? Bernie Sanders says deficit concerns seem to melt away when it's time to fill Pentagon coffers. The Vermont senator called out fellow lawmakers for approving a $778 billion military budget while claiming the government can't afford climate action and Medicare expansion. Yeah, never seems to be a problem, right? Never seems to be a problem. Are you Canadian? Sometimes. I'd just be a little wary of referendums on it without the pressure or backdrop, only because I don't know, I look at some pessimistic voters than you are. Yeah, I guess, but like the whole point is to be very aggressive when it comes to information and making sure people know exactly what they're voting on and try to get the word out as much as possible, right? Howdy from Brazil. Nice. If I just yeah, exactly, Memo. I should just change my name to F-35 and then the government might support me, to the tune of 1.5 trillion. Bernie Sanders of Vermont noted in a flourish speech Wednesday that concerns about the deficit curiously disappear on Capitol Hill when it's time to authorize the annual U.S. military budget, which lawmakers are preparing to boost to $778 billion for fiscal year of 2022. Sanders, who intends to vote against the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act, lamented that somehow, when it comes to defense budget and the needs of the military-industrial complex, we just cannot give them enough money. Day after day here on the floor of the Senate and back in their states, many of my colleagues talk to the American people about how deeply concerned they are about deficit and the national debt. They tell us that we just don't have enough money to expand Medicare. We just don't have enough money to do what every other major country on earth does, and that is guaranteed paid family leave and medical leave. Right. Exactly. So when it comes to well, the thing is, Bernie Sanders, I think I think you're missing one important piece here. They say that they don't have enough money because they're giving it to the to the military, right? It's gotta go. It's gotta go to the military-industrial complex. At a time when the scientists are telling us that we face an existential threat in terms of climate change, we are told that we just don't have enough money to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel and create a planet that will be healthy and habitable for our kids and future generations. True. We just don't have enough money, yet today the US Senate will begin consideration of an annual defense budget that costs $778 billion for 1 year. I would also like to point out, if you multiply that by the same time frame that the Build Back Better agenda was implemented. Let's see here. Let's do some quick maths, right? 778 times 10. Oof, not looking good. Not looking good. About 6 times. About 6 times the amount of the Build Back Better plan. The 1.751, right? The already negotiated down 1.75 trillion one. For example, in the UK, I constantly hear people complain about the first past the post in Westminster elections, yet a decade ago they had the chance to change it and said no. Sometimes the public just doesn't know what it wants, or at least not responding to surveys honestly. Yeah, it depends. It depends. We just spent 20 years on a pointless war. We can't do climate change when we need to prepare for another pointless war. We could use that money so bad. True. True. Absolutely. Sanders' remarks on the NDAA, which cleared a key procedural hurdle late Wednesday, came as Democrats in Congress also work to finalize the Build Back Better Act, a reconciliation package whose social spending and climate provisions have been gutted to satisfy right-wing members of the majority party, such as President Joe Manchin. President Manchin, a key swing vote in the Senate, has repeatedly cited the national debt as a reason to pare back the reconciliation bill, which has now a top-line price tag of about $1.7 trillion over 10 years, roughly half the original $3.5 trillion framework. True. But while the West Virginia Democrat says he's alarmed by the prospect of spending to expand Medicare and combat climate crisis, he appears unconcerned that over the past decade, Congress has poured over $9 trillion into the only federal agency that has yet to pass a full independent audit. Nice meme. Manchin has approved every NDAA since 2011 and voted on Wednesday to advance the 2022 Pentagon budget. Nice. Well, the keywords there are use that money. Money being used is far better than it sitting in accounts not doing anything apart from being shuffled from one place to another. There's not enough productive use of the money in the US and much more sitting around being unproductive. Yeah, so in other words, reorganize our priorities and quit prioritizing trillions of dollars to the military. Oh, Bolsonaro is the Bolsonaro is the leader of president of Brazil. Spoder Nation. Like Spider-Man? What was the original Build Back Better budget? I think like the first original for the first original plan was 6 trillion, and then the agreed upon I want to say concession. Anyways, the agreed upon deal was then 3.5 trillion over 10 years. Lindsay Koshgarian of the National Priorities Project observed last month that over the past 10 years, the U.S. has handed over $3.4 trillion to Pentagon contractors without headline-making congressional negotiations. For that money, the U.S. has gotten many copies of a supposedly cutting-edge military plane that has spontaneously caught fire at least 3 times, has heavily subsidized average CEO pay of $17 million at the top military contractors, and allowed corporations to rake in profits even while they failed wildly in the effort to reconstruct Afghanistan. So what was that again about us not being able to afford paid leave, Medicaid, medical care for seniors, and free community college? Sanders was just one of the 4 members of the Senate Democratic Caucus to vote against advancing the latest NDAA, which is on track to pass the upper chamber this week. Joining Sanders in voting no was Senator Elizabeth Warren, Ed Markey, Cory Booker. The House approved its version of the NDAA in September. None of the corporate-backed House Democrats currently holding up the reconciliation bill reported concerns about its cost, voted against the proposed Pentagon budget increase, which progressive lawmakers have tried to unsuccessfully block. In his floor speech Wednesday, Sanders pointed out that the Senate's 2022 military policy bill proposes spending $37 billion more than President Trump's last defense budget and $25 billion more than what President Biden requested. And by the way, all of this money is going to an agency, the Department of Defense, that continues to have a massive cost overruns year after year, wasting enormous amounts of money. Concerns about deficit seem to melt away under the influence of the military-industrial complex. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that it is deliciously rich that people like Manchin get super concerned and clutch all the pearls when it comes to when it comes to helping people and providing some type of modicum of progress in any way, shape, or form. All of a sudden, we start acting like accountants. But when it comes to the military budget, hey, open check. How much do you need? How much do you want? You know what? How about 25 billion more? How's that sound? Here's an unpopular idea about how we tax any income of over a million 100%, then money wouldn't be an excuse. If they took some of the military money and spent it elsewhere in an equally productive manner, then the same thing would happen. It would just pass through the chains. People would buy things and make things, and there'd be no inflation or debt issue. Right? Like the idea that this would somehow be like a problem when it comes to inflation is just nonsense. I like the Majority Report interview about how the Dems and Republicans both got on board with the military chain for different reasons, but some Dems saw it as a progressive force to bring progressive economy ideas to folks, but that was like Starship Trooper style. No one in Congress has a spine, true. Debt has no relationship with government revenue in a specific year. Debt is about GDP growth, not to the GDP itself. National, I got a video of a reporter asking Pelosi at the climate summit about why militaries accept. Yeah. I saw that actually. I saw that, just like the clip, not the Rational National video, but that clip. The TLDR is the only people that voted no were Bernie Sanders, Markey, Booker, Warren. That's it. That's literally it. Unbelievable. Representative Gosar censured, booted from committee over violent video. So this absolute clown decided to post a very cringy video Oh, stop it. I want to actually... A very cringy video using the intro of Attack on Titan. Despite how you want to spin it, despite how you want to make excuses, at the end of the day, it is completely unacceptable for a representative to not only post this, but have it produced by his own, staff. House of Representatives voted to censure hardline Republican, that's a nice way of putting it, Gosar, and remove him from his 2 committee assignments. The vote was mostly along party lines. 2 Republicans, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, joined all Democrats to censure Gosar, while David Joyce voted present. The formal rebuke came after Gosar posted an anime-style video on Twitter that depicts him murdering, roboxing AOC, and attacking President Biden. The video, which he deleted after intense blowback, shows a character with Gosar's image, wielding his sword to kill the character of the image of AOC. Gosar sat in the back of the corner of the House during the debate, wearing an American flag mask. When it was his turn to speak, he defended the video, saying no threat was intended, didn't express any regret for the fallout. He compared himself to Alexander Hamilton, who was the first person in Congress to attempted to censure. Jesus, the victim complex of these people. Dude. Actions, consequences. Actions, consequences. The concept of personal responsibility. Again, I've said this multiple times. Like the concept of personal responsibility, just goes right out the window when it comes to actually dealing with the actions that you have done. I'm here, hope not too late. No, you're just in time, actually. States depend too much on the military budget to complement their local economies, so state representatives in the federal level always vote in favor of more military budget. Yeah, that's not a good thing. What's going on? We're just chilling. How do people justify it? It doesn't matter if this was a complete explicit threat, implicit threat. It doesn't matter. The video was inappropriate. The video was inappropriate. Full stop. Period. Okay? in my opinion. A elected member of Congress should not be behaving this way, much less directing their staff to create this video, because it wasn't just like, oh, I'm just gonna retweet like a fan thing, or I'm just gonna retweet a constituent's video, or whatever. No, he made it. In other words, or I should be more specific, his staff produced the video, produced the meme edit. Like, if you were to do this, like full stop, regardless of what you think, if you were to do this at your job, chances are you'd be fired, regardless of whether or not there was an implicit, explicit threat or whatever. It doesn't matter. That is 100% inappropriate. You would be fired. You would be fired. Anybody goes to HR with that, you'd be fired. Yeah, HR field day, correct. So, like, the idea that he's trying to create this, like, victim complex for what? For what? For getting, like, consequences to actions? Hey, Odd Primate, how's it going? Gozar, yeah. We're going over Gozar. Apparently having a victim complex. Commander Vicky, thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome to Polarized Politicians and Staff. God, please start the rapture. No! There's no such thing. No such thing. I would be scared if I was in her shoes, because these guys like literal white supremacists. This particular guy does, or has been involved, I think with the fundraising that had some type of white nationalist, kind of neo-Nazi kind of deal. He's been way too close for comfort with some of these groups. I'm speaking about specifically Representative Gosar, where it is documented that he has fundraised for them, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I believe he held fundraisers for these type of people. Consequences. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Regardless of what you feel about this video, regardless if you feel that there is no implicit threat, regardless if you think that AOC is milking it, it doesn't matter. In my opinion, the reality is it's inappropriate. Full stop. Period. No other take other than it was just inappropriate. And should anyone have done this in any workplace, they would be fired. They would be fired. If anyone would do this in a if anyone would have done this in a normal work environment in a company, the company would have immediately fired you. Thank you for the follow, Commander Vicky, Odd Primate. Appreciate the follows. I just want to make sure I said thank you to everybody. I tuned in to watch a little C-SPAN and one Republican speech saying you're changing the way Congress works. Yeah, as if they weren't kind of doing the same thing. Again, it seems to me like they're just mad that they're the ones not doing it. Anyways, the last time the House censured a lawmaker was in 2010 when Ethics Committee found Representative Charlie Rangel misused congressional resources and filed inaccurate finance reports and tax returns. House Speaker Pelosi said the House needed to act now on Gosar because it's an emergency. Violence against women, workplace harassment. I think legal matters in terms of threatening our members and threatening the president of the U.S. She added, "This is outrageous and I'm part of the Republican leadership not to act upon this." Yeah, like the reality is, none of the Republicans had any type of spine to condemn this, which is very telling. The fact that the Republican Party didn't like say, hey, you know what? That's kind of inappropriate, man. Like, regardless of context and regardless of like what your intentions were, that's wildly inappropriate, dude. Could you like not? And while some Republicans brought up a host of other issues, of course, what about non sequiturs from inflation? Okay. Immigration? Okay. Others condemned violence, but countered the Democratic response went too far. So, I mean, okay. Well, here's the thing, buddy. If you think that the Democratic action in the House was too far, then why didn't you do something about it when you had the chance? Why didn't you universally condemn it and say, you know what? We don't think that this is proper. We don't think that this is proper. Okay, we think that this was unacceptable behavior, and they won't happen again. Period. That should have been the reaction from Republican leadership. They should have immediately said, "Hey, this is inappropriate. We don't condone this. You need to stop. It won't happen again," and move on. The problem is not a lack of spine. The problem is literally motivation in favor of doing this kind of shit. True. The GOP wants Biden to quit. Not going to happen. I don't know if they want him to quit. I know I left the GOP earlier this month per the Libertarians. The problem is not lack of spine. Maybe. She is distasteful and awful at reading the room and talking about racism. Among other things. Then there, among other things. Joy's present vote was a nod to the option that as a former prosecutor and member of the House Ethics Committee, Congressman Joyce has a unique understanding of the committee's duty to carry out its investigatory and adjudication responsibilities in an impartial manner. As such, he may deem it appropriate to vote present on legislation related to matters that could come before the committee. Cole added that he thought the video was certainly provocative and, in my opinion, inappropriate. Right, exactly. Like, this is the bare, like, this is like the bare minimum, right? At most, at least, it is incredibly inappropriate. He said that, but he said setting the precedent for allowing the majority to decide the minority party's committee assignment sets a slippery slope for the institution to go down. Wait, what? And he said the GOP leaders have a history of policing their members' conduct. Not really. That's what? If they did, they would have universally said, hey, buddy, that's not okay. During his floor speech, Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy argued that Democrats are changing the rules of the chamber and setting a standard they didn't accept for comments from their own members. In a personal swipe, he said the speaker's burning down the House on the way out, on the way out the door. But on the House floor, Mary Scanlon referred to the violence that took place on January 6th. The Congress knows what happens when members of the radical right get stirred up by their leaders. Yeah, like, okay, so at the end of the day, absolutely inappropriate, and it's the least that could have happened. Matt Gaetz is still a congressman? Yeah. GOP leaders have a history of policing their members' conduct. See Matt Gaetz. So, at the very least, this is wildly inappropriate from Representative Gosar, and that's the least that could have happened, okay? That is the least that could have happened, and him crying and playing the victim, trying to make himself to be some Alexander Hamilton or whatever, is nonsense. Oh, that's right. He has, no, he's right. I apologize, Quince. I apologize. They do have a history of punishing their members, and policing their members' conduct. It happens when they go against the dear leader. Sorry, you're right. I apologize. You're absolutely correct. They will absolutely censure. They will censure their members. They will kick their members out of the committees. They will vote to remove the members out of the party, even though they vote 92% with them. Should they go against the dear leader, that's just a line you cannot cross. So you're right. They do police their conduct. Iron sharpens iron. There's sharpen Republicans. If we abolish both parties, we could see less of this. Yeah. To eliminate both parties is going to take things that aren't in place yet. If you want to kind of break up the duopoly, then you have to work to make sure things like ranked choice voting and things like that are available in order to break up that duopoly. But well, that's up to us. QAnon Shaman sentenced to 41 months for his role in the riots in the January 6th insurrection. The so-called QAnon Shaman was sentenced to 41 months in prison for his role in the U.S. Capitol riot. The Justice Department has asked for QAnon Shaman to receive a harsh sentence as a way to set an example among the January 6th rioters, and the prosecutors have positioned QAnon Shaman as emblematic of a barbaric crowd. Since then, QAnon Shaman has gained fame, a figure known in fringe online movements, and for widely shared photos that captured him wearing a face paint and headdress inside the Senate chamber. Judge Royce Lamberth, who has had QAnon Shaman held in jail since his arrest despite his multiple attempts to gain sympathy and his release. Other judges are likely to look to Lamberth's sentence as a possible benchmark, since QAnon Shaman is one of the first felony defendants among 660 to receive punishment. Actions. Consequences. I'm from a multi-party system. A multi-party system, trust me, you would say things worse than this. Are you sure? It's certainly more democratic. I mean, we don't need to get hard-ons for stricter incarceration if we are folks who believe in prison abolition or even reform. I do believe in prison reform. More importantly, one of the things that should happen is the elimination of any type of the elimination of any type of private prison. I personally don't feel like the shaman dude deserves to be hung out to dry. I think there are other people who are more guilty and did worse things. Maybe. The point is, out in 9 months on probation. I have no idea. Just realized it's not Friday, in fact, Friday Eve. Yeah, that's exactly... Am I just debating people with this? It's more democratic, and I think it's a better system than in the US, but it's not a silver bullet. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not claiming to be... I'm not claiming that all of a sudden we have a parliamentary system or representative parliamentary system. All our problems go away. I'm just saying it's more democratic. But he made himself a symbol, and pretty much intentionally with the intent. Yeah. The horns painted guy. Yeah. So I think that, like, the reality is, actions, consequences. I don't know. I don't know what else to say other than that. Pictures of the QAnon shaman at the Capitol went viral because of his bizarre appearance while leading others through the Capitol, shouting into a bullhorn. As one of the first 30 rioters inside the building, he made his way to the Senate dais, that was hastily vacated earlier by then Vice President Mike Pence, and left a note that read, "Only a matter of time, justice is coming." What does that mean? QAnon shaman also carried an American flag on a speared flagpole, which prosecutors have characterized as a weapon. Lamberth only asks a few questions about QAnon shamans leaving a note for Pence, whether he knew of other threats to Pence's life coming from the crowd, and about his choices that day. He made himself the image of the riot, didn't he? For good or bad, he made himself the very image of this event. Anyways, the TLDR is he's one of the I think harsher sentence as a example, and I think that like consequences, actions, things like that, you know. Trump was watching screens in a tent, but they were not high class enough. He made only one attempt to calm the crowd, but that was after he accomplished what he wanted. By that point, there was no turning back. Yeah, like, I don't know what else to say. I think that's the thing. He's a poster boy because he had horns on. I don't like him, but I have more sympathy for him. Maybe. Like, the thing is, I just don't want it to be a thing where this behavior is acceptable. He can get a job at InfoWars when he gets out, true. True, he'll be on Alex Jones's show, in no time. He'll be on Alex Jones's show on no time, hawking, Alpha Brain or whatever. Do you remember when you were streaming and how upset most people were on January 6th? Yeah, we saw that live. We saw it go down live. He'll be doing call-ins from prison. Wasn't there a WAPO post that said 60% of Americans want representatives to involved be investigated? Yeah, I mean, like, the whole point of the January 6th investigation committee is to kind of put everything together and get the full scope of the picture, right? Everything. That's the whole point. I don't think that it's a bad thing that we would like to fully understand what happened, right? I mean, we saw it live, we saw what happened, and it'd be nice to have all of that documented, especially the days before. Especially the days before. Thousands of borrowers' student debt is eased with loan forgiveness program overhaul. A month after the U.S. Department of Education announced it would overhaul the troubled public service loan forgiveness program, thousands have begun to see their student loan balances disappear. It's almost like magic, folks. In recent days, thousands of federal student loan borrowers have gotten a shock when they go online to check their balances. They realize suddenly they're debt-free. This is a wave of loan discharges as part of the U.S. Department of Education's overhaul of the public service loan forgiveness program. NPR's Corey Turner reports. When Congress created the PSLF back in 2007, it was to encourage people like Nathan Herrick to work in public service. Auto accidents, sudden cardiac arrest, especially, that's one of my specialties. Herrick has been a paramedic in Pennsylvania for more than 10 years and has been paying nearly $500 a month towards his student loans. And that was the deal. After 10 years of service, the U.S. government promised to forgive the rest, but in reality, the program's been a mess with poor communication and paperwork mistakes leading to borrowers not getting credit for all the time they've actually served. Ginny Dessler, a librarian in Ohio, compares it to being a lifelong fan of the hapless Cleveland Browns. Every season, this is going to be the winner. That's how I felt every year, putting in my certification and knowing that there's probably going to be a disappointment at the end. That's just laughing because the education department is now making it easier to qualify for forgiveness. Last week, she went online to check her loan balance, complete disbelief. Overnight, Dressler's student loan debt went from more than $40,000 to zero. Huh. Yep. Porta works for Pennsylvania state government and had about 20,000 in loans erased. Alicia Rosenbaum, a high school English teacher in Georgia, she just got credit for more than 7 years of teaching that had been disqualified, and when she reads the official letter that did finally arrive, she tears up. I don't wish that for my children. You know, this loan debt over their life is a good chunk of their adult life. Yeah, like magic, folks. It's almost like if they had hear about Alex Jones is getting dragged back in court for the millionth time for Sandy Hook. Yeah, he lost all his cases by default. And rightfully so. The Charlottesville guys on trial right now are live tweeting and they're going on podcasts doxing people during the trial. Holy yikes, Batman. There's like 6 Republicans I know of in the hearing with Capitol and Metro Police where they're basically outed themselves and they were only asking questions about whose phone would be tapped in the Capitol. Huh. That's disturbing. So the TLDR of this story sounds like, should the federal government want, working with the Department of Education, it seems like there are alternatives and methods to alleviate student loans, right? Just saying, it's something that can be done. It's not a fantasy. It's not a hard ask. It seems like working with the Department of Education, student loans can be forgiven or reduced or credited. Just saying, there are precedents for this, and there are methods for pathways for this to be done. That's interesting. Maybe President Biden should get on that. Maybe there are pathways. I understand that it's not all like one-to-one, but there are pathways in which some method of action can be taken. Loan forgiveness has to be done through congressional statute. Yes, but I believe there are certain actions that the executive can come to together with the Department of Education and kind of propose some solutions, right? I believe they have some type of action they can take. I believe so. My point is that it isn't impossible, right? If they could make public service loan forgiveness programs, they can absolutely make different expansive programs to alleviate student debt. If they can make public service loan forgiveness programs, they can absolutely make things such that we expand this. If we just stop collection of interest loan, problem will become less significant. Instead, they pay out more than just got bad. Yeah, it's not a good practice. But I think that depending, there is a strong case for just kind of doing a debt jubilee to attempt to jumpstart or stabilize the economy. The Department of Education can only forgive debt through statute, public service after 10 years, disable low-income borrowers, and people who took loans for fraudulent. Right, all are laws from Congress. Is there maybe a way where there could be a temporary stopgap using like an executive order, or is that just out of the table? I feel like there are certain things that the Department of Education can do, but that's just me. Maybe you're right. That's true. I mean, the real ideal scenario would be that we don't have to deal with this. It should just be. That was original proposal for the Build Back Better plan, but that was taken off the table. The executive order would have to be approved by the Supreme Court, as I believe it to be the first time an order would be used in such a way. I have no idea. I believe wording allowed forgiveness in executive order. If there's things that if there are things that the executive can do, I suspect that they should be moving in that direction. If you want to forgive student loans, fine, but the executive doesn't get to do that, or Trump would have just ordered the DoD or transport to build this wall. Didn't he mobilize funds? Didn't he mobilize funds from the military to do that? Pretty sure he did that through actually mobilizing funds from that. Did he not? He did like a whole roundabout using a not executive order, a emergency declaration or some nonsense. Push some already approved funds. Okay. I thought that Biden could end student loans with a swipe of a pen. I'm not 100%. But I feel like there's something that I have a feeling that there's something that he could do with the Department of Education. The president has a lot of executive power. He can 100% wipe away federal student loans. Well, maybe federal student loans are different, right? Aren't they under the purview of the government? It seems like when it comes to federal, specifically Hold on. Okay, so key provisions that advocates of cancellation cite come from a Higher Education Act, which was originally signed in 1965 and has been updated since. Specifically, the law grants a presidential administration via the Education Secretary authority to enforce, pay, compromise, waive, or release government-held federal funds. Government-held federal student loans. Indeed, the Higher Education Act provided the authority for President Trump and Biden to pause student loan debt payments during the coronavirus pandemic. However, experts disagree on whether the president can authorize widespread debt cancellation through an executive order. There is enough of a legal question that any move by the president would prompt litigation. Right. So it seems to me like he can't just universally just snap his fingers and get rid of student debt. But it does seem like there are actions he could take. There are instances of president's executive orders being thrown out in court because they take actions that were not authorized by laws in the past. So, while Kinetic Pause is correct that the only way to do this, like in a complete effective way, is to do it through Congress and congressional authorization, I guess would be it, congressional legislation. But there is a law that's already on the books. I believe Cal just also alluded to it, which was originally signed in 1965. Law grants the presidential administration via the Education Secretary authority to enforce, pay, compromise, waive, or release government-held federal student loans. Government-held. So I believe that there are things that he can do. There's also constitutional restrictions and restraints that need to be addressed as well, because this will be a presidency basically determining people's finance situation, even if it's for the greater good. Many would see such power as too much. Read the entire act. Secretary is limited to what they can spend funds on through congressional statute. Some of the contested issues could be Congress's past changes to the Higher Education Act that cited narrow conditions under which student debt may be forgiven. Past federal legislation has addressed debt relief for teachers, workers in the public sector, which is what we were just talking about, cases in which school closed before a student earns a degree, and in case of student death or disability. It's not clear whether blanket forgiveness could pass legal muster. Similarly, the Higher Education Act's authority to compromise, waive, or release has typically been used in the past for loans only in unusual circumstances on a case-by-case basis and for loans that are not expected to be repaid. Despite many recent graduates' heavy debt loans, it's not clear that all of their loans would be deemed unpayable. Compromise is usually when someone cannot possibly pay a debt to the government, so the government cuts a deal. That's very different from mass cancellation. Could we then argue that the Higher Education Act's authority to compromise, waive, or release has typically been used in the past for loans in unusual circumstances? How about a once in a 100-year pandemic? Does that count as a unusual circumstance? Could we say a massive unprecedented pandemic could count as an unusual circumstance? If Biden could do it without Congress, he would. He wants free college. He wants free community college. Well, he says he does. And the Build Back Better plan did include provisions for 2 years of community college. But Joe Manchin told everybody to go after themselves. So I'm not sure. Meanwhile, a different law, the Federal Claims Collection Act, provides federal agencies with the authority to collect or compromise claims or suspend or terminate collection action. However, this law imposes a high standard for when government can compromise a debt to narrow circumstances like when the debtor is unable to pay, and that inability is verified, or when the cost to collect the debt would be too high to justify the collection. Yeah, I don't know. It seems to me like there is maybe arguments for this, and if he wants to challenge that in court, he probably should, and just try it, you know? Because here, I understand that he has like very narrow scopes of what this could constitute, but it seems to me like you can make a case for this being an unusual circumstance where this could be applied. I think that they're secretly saying thank God for Manchin. Maybe so, we'll never know. If he wanted to do these things, he should have entered the White House with them ready to sign so that the courts would challenge them and have it settled by now. That's a point. Brief side note, I just got a notification that OSHA just stopped enforcing the vaccine mandate. That's correct. That is correct. Congress said that he could with the bill in 65 being worded the way it did. Yeah, but like, again, I would say to just try it, right? There's no reason not to, because at least under your purview, you'd be able to at least attempt to show face, and if it ends up failing in the judicial system, then so be it. You pressure Congress, and you make a big stink about it, so that the constituents can light a fire under the representatives' arses. Right? That would be the correct move. Getting your executive orders overturned by courts make you look weak. Remember how bad Trump looked when his anti-immigration executive orders were overturned by the court. Maybe, but maybe. But at the end of the day, they, with some adjusting, I ended up accepting it. No way you could have read it when he got in the chair, because until the runaway elections, Dems did know they had both houses, the pandemic federal plans made by Cheetos. If it's close, sure, give it a try, but Congress has the power of the purse, not the executive. That's true. It's not weak. The issue is that these new issues that the federal government was designed to handle, so it has to adapt and form new ways of handling things. Maybe so. Yeah, so the TLDR is I still refuse to accept the fact that there's just nothing he can do, right? There's just nothing he can do. Because I think that those scenarios wouldn't be comparable in the least, in my opinion, because like, it turns out eliminating student loan is probably very, very, very popular, right? And the attempt at eliminating student loans and it failing I don't think it'll have the same effect as like the random nonsense immigration policy. We should be in favor of passing laws and not relying on executive orders which get enacted and get cancelled every time the office holder changes. Oh yeah, no, I agree. Except we don't really have that good functioning congressional wings, do we? That being said, I don't disagree with you. Laws are more durable and powerful than executive orders. Biden doesn't do shit and looks weak in AF for it, and West Virginia turned out how it did. So glad the people in office want anything good to pass. They could raise the issue in meetings with House and Senate leaders and get new ideas and options floating around. He has, in some cases, he has. The problem is we're having here is certain members of Congress, particularly President Joe Manchin and Madam President Kyrsten Sinema, are being very, very obstinate when it comes to this, right? They're obstinate when it comes to this. But yes, to your point, I do think that laws are more durable and powerful and should probably be an avenue we should take. But when I mean, when it fails, then what are you supposed to do? Just throw your hands up and say, I guess we can't do anything. I think they're a red herring. It would be others if not them. Yeah, that might be true. But if you take that mask away, then the problem becomes so apparent that there's no doubt about it. And then things get really spicy after that. If that's true, which it's quite possible, then eliminating that mask, eliminating that firewall, because right now Manchin and Sinema are the ones taking all the heat. Eliminate that. Then you blow the mask out of the blow the face off out of the water, right? Then there's no doubt. Then there's no doubt, and people are gonna get more mad. Biden is just playing the clock till midterm so he can blame Republicans again. Maybe. If that's the strategy, that is a terrible strategy. If that's the strategy, that is a terrible strategy. There's no way that that's going to work again. The Dems don't actually have control of the Senate. They can't control their own members. The GOP has always been better at the control game. That's right. You'll go, it's the Republicans' fault, just like how the representatives... Oh, just like how the Republicans did the Dems last time. Yeah, but here's the problem. That was a one-time deal. That was a one-time... that was the one-time Hail Mary, alright? That's not going to fly anymore. I don't believe that you just saying, look, we're not Republicans, is going to fly with voters anymore. I think you need to give them something. I think you need to deliver. I think you need to give people something to vote for. Otherwise, you're going to depress turnout. And people are just going to not go. If that was the strategy, they would not pass the BBB plan. Yeah, I mean, like... I don't know. I don't think that I don't think that trying to point the finger or say that we're not Republicans is a good, viable strategy. I think that I think that they're running out of time. And will the BBB do anything for his approval? We will see, but we will see how it fares nationally. But we will see how that fares nationally. Some parts are, of course, necessary, but woefully underwhelming to say the least. I think he needed to pass. I think that needed to pass a while ago and larger to hit people materially. I agree. See my previous statement. I believe it's woefully underwhelming. That being said, I don't think that some of the stuff there is unnecessary. But the point being is, listen, you ran on a platform. You need to deliver. You need to deliver on the big ticket items, and I don't see that. And that's what got you the voter turnout. Voter turnout is what wins elections. If your people don't go out to vote because they feel like you're not giving them the goods, if you're not delivering, people aren't going to come out. You lose. It's not hard. It's not a hard concept. I agree that voters need to see actual progress, correct? If not, then what's the point of voting? If not, then I should rephrase that. If not, then what's the point of voting for the people that promised you a whole bunch of stuff and didn't even attempt to deliver something, anything? That being said, always remember that the whole goal is always to do the most amount of good for the most amount of people, right? That being said, Our goal is to do the most amount of good for the most amount of people with the tools we have within the time that we have. I think the BBB should be broken up into multiple legislation, so hopefully more of it will get passed without being held back because of one thing. Maybe, but I don't know how willing Republicans are to help, because the only reason this is being done in the way that it's being done is through reconciliation, because they have no support. They will never deliver, it seems, I guess. I think Dems don't care about winning as long as the coffers get filled. As long as it's a two-party system, what are you going to do? Yeah. Right, but I believe that you will always be doing, in terms of electoral politics. Now again, electoral politics is only but one tool, right? It is but one tool, right? We should not cede that one tool. I understand it's frustrating. I'm frustrated. I've been frustrated for quite some time. But that anger should be channeled, and that frustration should be channeled to see what we can do on the ground. Oh, no, I don't think, like, they're a monolith either. Yeah, you could try protesting. 24/7 protest. Yeah, you could try protesting, but, I think other avenues are needed to be explored when it comes to grassroots movements, because we've got to find a way to, not put ourselves in that position where we have to, like, depend on one or two people, right? Moral of the story is elect the Libertarians or Greens if we want to change and end the gridlock. I don't see how we have the infrastructure institutionally to make that happen. Unless ranked choice voting starts to be a thing. I don't think third parties are viable. I don't think they're monoliths, but I think they already have a purchased leadership with them being allowed to rig primaries. I don't see any way of fixing the DNC. Yeah, so you make it so that you keep trying, right? That's the only options. You keep trying in a multi-pronged way. You have on the ground action. You have ballot initiatives to attempt to democratize our systems. You have primaries. You have elections. You have protests. These are all different multifaceted things that you can use. We have to do the work. We have to organize and protest and confront them to do their own jobs. Yeah, but I mean, I don't see any other path. I don't see any other path, Thandera. But fixing the party is a pipe dream. It's not like, it's not a project that should be the sum of all games, right? Trying to, like, think that the end goal is to just fix the Democratic Party, I think that's that's too much effort. However, when progressive candidates come to the board, especially with primaries or elections, then we should probably participate in those. Just saying. How it would take progressive conservatives at this point, conservatives who have the spine to stand up for principles. That's progressive conservatives? That's a weird... you mean like Ted Roosevelt Republicans? The LP had good success, municipality elections, so I hope they carry the success. Yeah, but, like, it's not the same to say the local... it's not the same to say that they have, like, power when it comes to the national elections. The US has a primary system, support the most progressive candidate in the primaries. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's one avenue Again, it's a multifaceted thing that needs to happen. Among other things. These are just tools. Remember, folks, these are just pieces of the puzzle, right? These are just pieces of the puzzle. Do not cede something that you can easily do, like vote, to the right. Do not cede that tool, okay? It is a it is a multifaceted things that multiple projects that need to be worked on, but that is a thing you can do, right? That is a thing you can do. Just don't forget that, okay? Someone with small conservative values but put the good of the country and the good of the people above all else. I have yet to see one, but I guess I'd be more open than your typical Republicans. I've yet to see somebody like that. I can't run because I talk on shit on the internet like this, true. That's, can you imagine? Can you imagine me trying to run? Oof. Alright, folks, quick break. Quick break, cute animal video. And we got the last two, things. Alright, folks. Would fit that PC description? I don't know. I mean, she is your typical GOP person who voted over 90% of the time with Trump. The only thing that made her somehow, like... The only thing that got her, that got waves... The only thing that made waves is that she dared defy the dear leader. My point being, I think I'll end with this final, like, note, right, in my head. The point being is, don't let this then discourage political engagement, right? I know it's been months at this point, I think like 2 or 3 months. Pretty doomer kind of attitude, right? I've been feeling that, and it's not unwarranted. Certainly I've been feeling it. I've been incredibly frustrated, incredibly angry, and just don't let that then discourage from from continuing to be engaged, is all I'm saying. And I hope that makes sense. What I'm saying is, don't let that discourage you and continue to be disengaged, because that's the one thing that that would really kind of short circuit everything, would it? If we all just got discouraged to the point of not doing any more action, or of not participating, right? Two forever chemicals more toxic than previously thought. Just gets better. New draft reports from the EPA have found that two forever chemicals are more toxic than previously thought, and one is likely carcinogenic to humans. The draft found that safe levels of ingestion of chemical, I'm not gonna even attempt to try to pronounce this, as PFAS basically, are much lower than the agency had found in prior assessment. The agency also found that PFOA is likely carcinogenic to humans. This is a step up from before that had previously said that there's suggestive evidence. Now we're at likely. Both PFOA and PFOS can be found in drinking water, nice, as well as other substances. PFOA has been used in non-stick cookware, flame repellents, and cosmetics. PFOS has been used in water and stain-resistant products. The latest finding comes as a part of an EPA effort to regulate the substances, with the agency saying it will aim to finish drinking water limits for PFOA and PFOS in 2023. 2 years. Nice. Just coming in, they found that these in my state going into a river recently. It's happening everywhere, Hannah. That's all for, that's also true, Tendera. Perfluorooctane sulfonic. That's right, babies are born with it in their blood, that's true. Scott Faber, Senior Vice President for Government Affairs at the Environmental Working Group, told The Hill that stronger toxicity finding is a sign that the agency will issue stronger regulations. There's no turning back. The evidence is now overwhelming that PFAS is toxic at very low levels, and that tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans have unsafe levels of PFOA in particular in their drinking water. Both substances belonging to a class of chemicals called perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl compounds, PFAS, which are sometimes called forever chemicals because they build up in people's bodies over time instead of breaking down. The CDC has found that PFAS in the blood of nearly all people that are tested indicated widespread exposure in the American public. The EPA also found that a different type of PFAS known as Gen X to be more toxic than previously believed. Yep, nice meme. Yeah. Thanks, DuPont. Thanks, DuPont. Appreciate that. P-fluorocalo. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, DuPont. By the way, this is the same company that basically suffered no consequences. Just the cost of doing business. They were fined, but it's just the cost of doing business, you know? Alright, folks, we continue our journey through this interesting report from the New York Times. We are following the stories of several climate migrants, and the whole point of illustrating this and the whole point of bringing up the ideas of like climate change and climate and how this is going to affect migration patterns is to illustrate how the most vulnerable are going to be affected, right? That's the whole point of this, for me to bring this up, is how the global south, how the global south's most vulnerable populations are going to be affected, and how they're being forced to leave. We should put DuPont in prison. DuPont shouldn't be in business, to be honest. Just look at Monsanto. True. I don't know how companies like this continue to operate and are allowed to continue to operate, but that's just me. We're following the story of Cortez, who was born a mile off the Guatemalan border in El Pastes town, a small town nestled in the side of a volcano. Her family were jornaleros, day laborers who farmed on big maize and bean plantations in the area, and they rented a 2-room mud-walled hut with a dirt floor, raising 9 children there. Around 2012, geez, it sounds like my dad's story. Around 2012, a coffee blight worsened by climate change virtually wiped out El Salvador's crop, slashing harvest by 70%. The drought and unpredictable storms led to what UN-affiliated food security organizations describes as a progressive deterioration of Salvadorians' livelihoods. Yeah, no kidding. That's when Cortez decided to leave. She married and found work as a brickmaker at a factory in the nearby city of Ahuachapan, but the gangs found easy prey in vulnerable farmers and spread into the Salvadorian countryside and the outlying cities where they made living by extorting local shopkeepers. Here we can see how climate change can act as what the Department of Defense officials sometimes refer to as a threat multiplier. For Cortez, the threat could not have been more dire. After 2 years in Ahuachapan, a gang-connected hitman knocked on Cortez's door, took her husband, whose ex-girlfriend was a gang member, and roadblocked him in broad daylight. Yeah. In other times, Cortez might have gone back home, but there was no work in El Paste and no water, so she sent her children there and went to San Salvador instead. Yeah, I mean, like, what are you supposed to do, right? For all the ways in which human migration is hard to predict, one trend is clear around the world. As people run short of food and abandoned farms, they gravitate towards cities which quickly grow overcrowded. It's in these cities where waves of people stretch infrastructure, resources, and services to their limits that migration researchers warn that the most severe strain on society will unfold. Food has to be imported, stretching reliance on already struggling farms and increasing cost, which, I'll have you know, it turns out if you cannot grow food, you cannot import food because of climate change or instability, you were going to have some massive problems. So again, the whole idea needs to be reiterated time and time again that climate change needs to be addressed, full stop, period, now, 10 years ago. Stretching reliance on already struggling farms and increasing its costs, people congregate in slums with little water, electricity, as they are more vulnerable to flooding or other disasters, and the slum fuels extremism and chaos. It is a shift that is already well underway, which is why the World Bank has raised concerns about the mind-boggling influx of people into East African cities like Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, where population has doubled since 2000 and expected to nearly double again in 2035. In Mexico, the World Bank estimates as many as 1.7 million people may migrate from the hottest and driest regions, many of them winding up in Mexico City. But like so much of the rest of the climate story, the urbanization trend is just the beginning. Right now, a little more than about half of the planet's population lives in urban areas, but by the middle of the century, the World Bank estimates 67% will. In just a decade, 4 out of 10 urban residents, 2 billion people around the world, will live in slums. The International Committee of the Red Cross warned that 96% of future urban growth will happen in some of the world's most fragile cities, which already face a heightened risk of conflict and have governments that are at least capable of dealing with it. Some cities will be unable to sustain the influx. In the case of Addis Ababa, the World Bank suggests that in the second half of the century, many people who fled there will be forced to move again, leaving that city as local agriculture around it dries up. Our modeling effort is premised on the notion that in these cities as they exist now, we can see the seeds of their future growth, relationship between quality of life factors like household income in specific neighborhoods, education levels, employment rates, and so forth, and how each of these change in response to climate would reveal patterns that could be projected into the future. As moisture raises the grain in a slab of wood, the information just needed to be elicited. Under every scientific forecast of global climate change, El Salvador gets hotter and drier, and our model was in accord with what other researchers said was likely. San Salvador will continue to grow as a result, putting still more people in its dense outer rings. What happens in its farm country, though, is more dependent on which climate and development policies governments to the north chose to deploy in dealing with the warming planet. Yeah, that's a very important point. High emissions with few global policy changes, and relative open borders will drive rural El Salvador, just like rural Guatemala, to empty out even as its cities grow. Should the US and other wealthy countries change trajectory of the global policy, though, by, say, investing in climate mitigation efforts at home, but also hardening their borders, they would trigger a complex cascade of repercussions far south. That's right. According to the model, Central American and Mexican cities continue to grow, albeit less quickly, but their overall wealth and development slows drastically, most likely concentrating poverty further. In other words, if we do the opposite, but also hardening borders, we trap these people down. That is harsh. Not acceptable. Not really an answer, in my opinion. We're stepping on, like, we're stepping close to, this would be essentially the eco-fash scenario, right? Right, who needs food? Far more people also remain in the countryside for lack of opportunity, becoming trapped and more desperate than ever. And what do you think is going to happen? People move to cities because they can seem like a refuge, offering the facade of order, tall buildings, government presence, mirage of wealth. I met several men who left their farm fields seeking extremely dangerous work as security guards in San Salvador and Guatemala City. I met a 10-year-old boy washing car windows at a stoplight, convinced that the coins in his jar would help buy back his parents' farmland. Wow. Cities offer choices and a sense that you control your destiny. Well, the illusion of choice, I guess. The same cities, though, can easily become traps, as the challenges that go along with rapid urbanization quickly pile up. Since 2000, San Salvador's population has ballooned by more than a third, as it absorbed migrants from rural areas, even as tens of thousands of people continue to leave the country and migrate north. By mid-century, UN estimates that El Salvador, which has 6.4 million people and is the most densely populated country in Central America, will be 86% urban. Our models show that much of the growth will be concentrated in cities, some like suburbs like San Marcos, where people live in thousands of ramshackle structures, many without electricity or fresh water. In these places, even before the pandemic and its fallout, good jobs were difficult to find, poverty was deepening, and crime was increasing. Domestic abuse has also been rising, and declining sanitary conditions threaten more disease. As society weakens, the gangs, those members outnumber the police in parts of El Salvador by an estimated 3-to-1, extort and recruit. They have made San Salvador's murder rate one of the highest in the world. Cortez hoped to escape the violence, but she couldn't. The gangs run through her apartment block, stealing televisions and collecting protection payments. She had recently witnessed a roadblocks incident inside a medical clinic where she was delivering food. The lack of security, the lack of affordable housing, child care, lack of sustenance, and the influence of evolution of complex urban systems under migratory pressures in our models. And our model considers such stresses by incorporating data on crime, governance, and healthcare. They are signposts for what's to come. A week before our meeting last year, Cortez has resolved to make a trip by the US at almost any cost. For months, she felt like going far away, but moving home was out of the question. The climate has changed and it has provoked us. My dad, last year, he just gave up. Right, so like again, these people aren't just like picking up and saying, yeah, let's just go, cool, field trip. Like, this is literally last resort for these people. That's literally last resort for these people. Alright, chat. Listen. There was a lot of influence from Bernie Sanders and the BBB plan, okay? That being said, it is a shame that a lot of the important stuff, which was proposed by Bernie Sanders, is not included. Right, there was influence, I agree. But not anymore because they stripped it out. All the important stuff that undeniably was put forth by Sanders, especially when it comes to like the Medicare expansions and things like that. I believe community college, things like that was stripped out. Well, not anymore. Yeah, this final plan has nothing that would be important. Build back never, folks. Exactly. Anyways, just be easy, chat. All right, we're all friends here. We're all friends here. Cortez recounted what she did next after her boss dropped potato pupusas in the smoking fryer. Cortez turned to her and made an unimaginable request. Would she take Cortez's baby? It was the only way to save the child. Cortez said she promised to send money from the US, but the older woman said no, and she couldn't imagine being able to care for the infant. Today, San Salvador is shut down by the COVID pandemic, and Cortez is cooped up in her apartment in San Marcos. She hasn't worked in 3 months and is unable to see her daughters in El Paste. She was allowed a forbearance on rent during the country's official lockdown, but that has come to an end. She remains convinced that the US is her only salvation and border walls will be damned. She'll leave the first chance I get. Right. It's almost like, and hear me out. And hear me out. It's almost like people desperate with no other choice will not care if there's a border wall or not. The point is survival. The only thing that these people are thinking about is survival. That's it. These aren't economic migrants. These are people trying to survive. That's it. Most would-be migrants don't want to move away from home. Instead, yeah, there we go. Incremental adjustments to minimize change first moving to a larger town or city. It's only when those places fail them they tend to cross borders or take even riskier journeys in what researchers called stepwise migration. Leaving a village for a city is hard enough, but crossing into a foreign land vulnerable to both its politics and its own social turmoil is an entirely different trial. Correct. 7 miles from the Suchiate River, which marks Guatemala's border with Mexico, sits Siglo 21st, one of Mexico's largest immigration detention centers, a squat concrete compound with 30-foot walls, barred windows, and punishment cells, and a punishment cell. In early 2019, the 960-bed facility was largely empty, but as Mexico welcomed passing migrants instead of detaining them. But by March, the U.S. increased pressure to stop Central Americans from reaching its borders. Mexico had begun to detain migrants who crossed into its territory, packing almost 2,000 people, more than twice. Inside the center near Tapachula, detainees slept on mattresses thrown on the floor in the white-tiled hallways, waited in lines to use toilets of overflowing, yikes, gross, and crammed shoulder to shoulder for hours to get a meal of canned meat spooned into a metal tray. On April 25, imprisoned migrants stormed the stairway leading to a fortified security platform in the center's main hall, overpowering the guards and then unlocking the main gates. More than 1,000 Guatemalans, Cubans, Salvadorians, Haitians, and others streamed into the Tapachula night. Yeah, I mean, like, you have these people in, like, this most abhorrent conditions, and what? Your surprised Pikachu face that they don't want to be in this? I mean, remember, the whole point of them even attempting this wild journey to begin with is to survive. Yeah, something like solitary. I arrived in Tapachula 5 weeks after the breakout to find the city cracking in the crucible of migrations. Just months earlier, passing migrants to Mexico's southern border were offered rides and tortas and medicine from a sympathetic Mexican public. Now migrants were being hunted down by armed National Guard units as if they were enemy soldiers. Mexico has not always welcomed migrants. From President Andrés Manuel López Obrador was trying to make his country a model for increasingly open borders. This idealistic effort was pragmatic. It meant to show the world an alternative to being belligerent while building xenophobia. He saw gathering momentum in the U.S. More open borders combined with strategic foreign aid and help with human rights to keep Central American migrants from leaving their homes in the first place would lead to better outcomes for all nations. I agree. I want to tell them that they can count on us. Had declared, promising migrants work permits and temporary jobs. Right. The architects of Mexico's policies assumed that its citizens had patience and capacity to absorb economically, environmentally, and socially such an influx of people. They failed to anticipate how President Trump would hold their economy hostage to press his own anti-immigration crackdown, and they were caught off guard by how the burdens brought by the immigration traffic weighed on Mexico's own people. In the 6 months after Obrador took office in December of 2018, 420,000 people entered Mexico without documentation, according to Mexico's National Migration Institute. Many floated on the Suchiate on boards tied to larger inner tubes, paying guides a couple of $100 for the passage. In Ciudad Hidalgo, a border town outside Tapachula, migrants camped in a square and fought in the streets. In a late-night interview in a cinder block office under the glare of fluorescent lights, town's director of public security, Luis Martinez Lopez, rattled off statistics about the impact on robberies jumped 45%, murders increased 15%. Whether crimes were truly attributable to the migrants was a matter of significant debate, but the perception that they were fueled by rising impatience. That March, Martinez told me a confrontation between a crowd of 400 migrants and the local police turned rowdy, and migrants tied up 5 officers in the center of town. No one was hurt, but the incident stoked locals' concern that things were getting out of control. We used to open doors for them like brothers and feed them. I was disappointed and angry. Yeah, so I think that the TLDR of this is clear, right? In Tapachula, a much larger city, tourism and commerce began to suffer. Whole families of migrants huddled in downtown doorways overnight, crowding sidewalks and sleeping on thin, oil-stained sheets of cardboard. Hotels, normally sold out in December, were less than 65% full as visitors stayed away fearful of crime. Clinics ran short of medication. The impact came at a vulnerable moment. While many northern Mexican states enjoyed economic growth of 3 to 11%, in 2018, Chiapas, its southernmost state, had 3% drop in its gross domestic product, GDP. They are overwhelmed, said Reverend Cesar Cañaveral Perez, who earned a PhD in theology of human mobility in Rome and now runs Tapachula's largest Catholic migrant shelter. Models can't say much about the cultural strain that might result from a climate influx, but there is no data on anger or prejudice. What they do say is that over the next 2 decades, if climate emissions continue as they are, the population of southern Mexico will grow sharply. At the same time, Mexico has its own serious climate concerns and will most likely see its own climate exodus. 1 in 6 Mexicans now rely on farming for their livelihood, and close to half of the population lives in poverty. Studies they estimate that with climate change, water availability per capita could decrease as much as 88% in places, and crop yields in coastal regions may drop by a third. If that change does indeed push out a wave of Mexican migrants, many of them will most likely come from Chiapas. Yet a net increase in population at the same time, which was what our models assume, suggests that even 1 million or so climate migrants make it to the US border. Many more Central Americans will become trapped in a protracted transit, unable to move forward or backwards in their journey, remaining in southern Mexico and making its current stresses far worse. Already, by late last year, Mexican government's ill-planned policies have begun to unravel into something more insidious: rising resentment and hate. Now that coronavirus pandemic has effectively sealed borders, those resentment risks bubbling over. Migrants with nowhere to go and no shelters to take them in, roam the streets unable to socially distance, and lack even basic sanitation. It has angered many Mexican citizens who have begun to describe migrants as economic parasites and question, oof. Yeah, see, this is the problem where we start getting into these situations. This is the type of response, right? It's like, God. These, this word, right? And question foreign aid aiming at helping people cope with the drought in places like where Jorge and Cortez come from. How dare AMLO give $30 million to El Salvador when we have no services here? Asked Javier Estrada, a community group leader in the southern border town Ciudad Hidalgo, referring to López Obrador participating in a multi-billion-dollar development plan with Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Ovilla has become a strident defender of the New Mexico First movement. Yeah, the rise of far-right extremism happens because, funny enough, as a byproduct of our inability to deal with climate change. Are we tracking? To use Ben's term, are we tracking why? For a multitude of reasons, not just because of our own sustainability, but because, like, politically, this is going to get really bad if we don't address climate change. Does that like, I hope that this kind of also puts a new layer of urgency as to why we need to deal with this. A new layer of urgency as to why we need to deal with this. Organizing thousands to march against immigrants month. Hello? Okay, we're back. Ooh, right at the end too. Yeah, so TLDR, this is a new facet to kind of put the urgency of dealing with climate change. Okay? This is a new facet to put on top of all the other stuff as to why we need to deal with climate change. We will be continuing this point tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. I know it's not a general stream day, but I will be tomorrow on since I have a moment. Be tomorrow on, of course, the same time, 9 a.m. So make sure you hit that follow button on your way out, and make sure you hit the follow button on your way out, and join the YouTubes, do the like, comment, share, and subscribe. Join the Discord. If you type exclamation Discord, join that to keep up with the channel. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Also, a quick shout out. Thank you, Darknet, and thank you for all the new follows and support. Appreciate it. Hang tight with me, folks. You have a good day. Let's go to Idan Simpson. Alright, folks. Hang tight. We're heading out. Sorry about that small interruption there at the end. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.